Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. Easy measy, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase. Go to toppingtechnologies.com to learn more. And yes, you can mount it to a standard AR-15 Picatinny rail. Lastly, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have Nvidia overtaking Apple once again to become the world's most valuable company, which is a feat to say the least. Now this comes to us thanks to New York Times, which also takes credit from Reuters, which they say simply, Nvidia overtakes Apple as the world's most valuable company at $3.5 trillion valuation. Now, granted, that's based on their stock. It's not like they have $3.5 trillion in sales. That'd be astronomically good. Their sales are good. They're not that great yet. Now, here you can see some of the cool little pictures of the Nvidia GPUs or graphics cards. You can see they're one of the few companies that I really admire where the founder is still leading the company is Nvidia. And if you go to his LinkedIn profile, it's hilarious because, again, his first corporate job or the job where he worked for someone else's, I believe, as a waiter or dishwasher at Denny's. Then, of course, at that Denny's restaurant, they came up with the idea of Nvidia, and they've just been growing ever since, seemingly exponentially. Now, they say that, quote, Nvidia dethroned Apple as the world's most valuable company last Friday, following a record-setting rally on the stock powered by insatiable demand for the supercomputing AI chips, which, again, if you're not big into tech, Nvidia, not a lot of people know from a consumer perspective, unless you're building your own PC. But if you buy a laptop, more often than not, from a consumer perspective, you'll see a little green Nvidia sticker or little, their logo put onto the base of the laptop, so you can see is there a graphics card inside. Which, again, that's a big part of their portfolio. But a big area where they really win business is the data center. Which, again, remember, there's no such thing as a cloud. It's just someone else's computer in a warehouse, usually halfway across the country. Now, that's where they really make a lot of their money, and especially with the new AI demand, they're selling a lot of these chips in massive volume to the big tech companies. So that's where a lot of their business continues to come from. Now, they say that Nvidia stock market reached a brief value of 3.53 trillion, while Apple is at a mere 3.52 trillion, according to data from LSGG. They also note in June, Nvidia briefly passed the world's most valuable company before it was overtaken by Microsoft and Apple. The tech trio market capitalizations have been a neck and neck race for several months. Microsoft's market value stood at 3.2 trillion, which, geez Louise, hindsight is always 2020 when it comes to investing. None of this is financial advice. But geez Louise, when a bunch of my friends went over to work for Dell, coming from Hewlett Packard Enterprise, I remember the stock price at Microsoft was like $40 per share, and we thought it was overpriced. Hilariously ignorant because, again, that is now worth around $400 per share at Microsoft, which is astronomically successful. Even more impressive when you consider consumer PC sales are decreasing overall. But again, Microsoft gets a lot of the money from corporate accounts, on licensing, yada, yada, yada. Now, they scroll down and continue to say, quote, the next big test will come when Nvidia reports third quarter sales in November, which, remember Q2 sales, people were literally taking days off work just to sit and wait for the earnings call. It's it reminded me of a Halo 2 launch party back in the day. And a lot of people joking that Nvidia is holding up, single-handedly propping up the U.S. economy. And again, that earnings call, the biggest thing that made people, hesitant was they did hit their number in terms of they actually overachieved what they promised Wall Street. They said they're going to make their sales, but the rate in which they beat the expectations was not as great as the previous fiscal quarters. So a lot of people became hesitant, thinking maybe they're running out of steam or maybe the market's slowing down. So yeah, that November, I only partially joke that November earnings call will be second only to the U.S. presidential election in terms of people tuning in. It's that such a gravitational company. Now they say, quote, Nvidia in August forecasted third quarter revenue of 32.5 billion, plus or minus 2%, compared to the current average analyst expectations of 32.9 billion, which, again, if you really want to knock off the socks of investors, beat those expectations. They also know that Morgan Stanley analyst Joseph Morse said in a note dated October 10th, he remains very bullish about the company longer term, but the recent rally, quote, raises the bar earnings somewhat. Here you see one of those ginormous GPUs. There's Tim Cook looking a little sad. Again, both these companies are doing fantastic, but yeah, I'm sure Tim Cook is not losing a minute of sleep over this brief lapse of market valuation. Now, they also note that shares of Nvidia, Apple, and Microsoft have outsized influence on the richly valued tech sector as well as broader U.S. market, with the trio, geez Louise, the trio accounting for a fifth of the S&P 500 index weightage, which that's pretty darn top heavy. Remember, the S&P 500 is one of the, again, not financial advice, one of the most popular index funds, which again say, well, as the word might have you think, it's a mix of those 500 companies that they best think represent the U.S. economy, rudimentary, simply put. So a lot of people are speculating. And geez, ever since they're talking about, ever since the AI boom, these stocks have gone up, 190% plus, which, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of speculation, but there's a lot of companies putting real money behind it, real research and innovation. They're building these data centers out, and we are seeing more and more business utilization as well as end user utilization of AI. So, I mean, I don't think this is just one of those cliche, flash in the pan ideas. I think this the trend is going to go well into 2025, and the demand is not going to decrease anytime soon for these GPUs. And again, one of the biggest issues with trying to compete with Nvidia is how, because just the upfront fiscal cost, especially if I'm getting into manufacturing these products, which again, Nvidia, they do manufacture some of their chips, don't get me wrong, but very similar to companies like Intel, they're mostly known for the actual research development, architecture of the actual product, and then they outsource it to, like, for example, I have a Nvidia, 3080 Ti graphics card in my podcast editing PC that I built, but that graphics card was actually manufactured by Gigabyte. The Gigabyte was manufactured, but they pay a licensing, and Nvidia works with them. So it'll be interesting. I think Nvidia will continue to chooch along and do pretty good into 2025. And again, by the time this video is rendered and uploaded, they probably won't be the most valuable company because, again, they go back and forth and people trade. I mean, especially when you have all these assisting tools for how you can trade on the New York Stock Exchange, all this stuff. By the time this video is rendered, it'll be different. But I suspect they'll continue to be one of the largest, most valuable companies out there. And let me know, do you think, I mean, some people say it's overhyped, some people say, it's way too high. I mean, even they split the stock and it went down to 100. I think it's already back up to like $140 per share. So, I mean, they seem to be growing and growing and growing. But let me know. I mean, the Q2 kind of came out, the growth is a little bit less. But I guess that'd be an interesting question. Again, not financial advice, but do you think now's the time to, buy? Or do you think, well, it's a little bit queasy, maybe no time? Let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, try to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you can click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know I can make sure better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.